See, our consciousness state is limited by virtue of the degree to which we are attuned with our true inner self. Our true inner self here I'm going to spell with a capital S. Self. What is the self, the true inner self? Mostly, we are distracted by ideas of what makes up myself. Myself being, I am a body. That's all I am. I'm a body with a brain in it, and the brain has various degrees of capacity, of clarity of thinking. Either a particularly clear-thinking brain or a brain that doesn't think quite as clearly. Sometimes there's vacillation. I don't always think clearly. Other times I think more clearly than sometimes. Like that, what do I know? What do I know about myself? Well, the body was born in this place at that time. The body was adjacent to siblings or not. The body, with the mind riding in it, hitchhiking in it, was subject to various kinds of parenting techniques or lack thereof. The body and the brain and the mind that's hitchhiking in it was subject to a variety of extended information bases, school or extracurricular things which I took in. And then what I am is based upon the degree to which I've thought out all of these things. What do I think about all of them? That's what I am. And of course then we have to now start taking into account overloads of experience that we've had, emotional overloads, perceptual overloads, various kinds of experiences that have caused us to have maladaptive reactions, where we have what we call premature cognitive commitments, the way in which our mind and our brain have made prematurely a commitment to the meaning of certain colors, certain sounds, certain flavors, certain smells that just happened to be around at a time when we had a stress reaction in the past. And so then all of this together is myself. And now the question from the Vedic perspective is, or is it? And we say, no, it's not. There is a deeper reality. And you can explore that by using the very specific technique of Vedic meditation. In Vedic meditation, when learned properly from a qualified teacher, you learn a particular mantra or sound. These are not the kinds of mantras that you hear in yoga studios, which are beautiful, designed to be chanted, and full of meaning. The kinds of mantras we use in Vedic meditation are referred to as bija. B-I-J-A. Bija means a seed. A seed mantra that doesn't work on the level of meaning. It works on the level of sonics or phonics, sound. The sound of the mellifluous quality of that mantra, and there are different mantras that work best for different people. We'll talk about that more in another format. Once you've learned your correct mantra from a Vedic meditation qualified teacher, and you've also learned the technique for using the mantra, then the experience of it is that you sit comfortably, you close your eyes. You don't have to sit in any kind of pretzel position. You can sit with your feet on the floor, sitting in a comfortable chair, back supported. You close your eyes and you start making use of an effortless technique, which you have to learn. Because effortlessness does not come to us, I would say it does come to us naturally, but we don't know about the nature of it because we've been indoctrinated that use of effort is the secret to success. And one of the tasks of a Vedic meditation teacher is to disabuse you of that notion that success is proportional to the effort that you put in. That during Vedic meditation, you have to learn a methodology of how to be effortless, because you don't know how to be effortless unless you've been taught. Through an effortless experience of the mantra spontaneously becomes subtler, finer, fainter, quieter, softer in the mind. These are all words that I use to describe it becoming subtler, subtler. As it becomes subtler, the mantra starts to take on a quality of being more and more charming as a sound. It's charming. The charm increases and increases because there's an underlying field, the underlying field of consciousness, which is an unbounded consciousness field, out of which all of the hundreds of thousands of thoughts we produce in a day emerge. And so thoughts issue forth from an underlying pure consciousness field, which itself is consciousness in its pure state, unbounded, but the source of all creativity, the source of all intelligence, the home of all the laws of nature, and additionally, the home of all intrinsic knowledge, intuitive knowledge. And so, as the mind begins to explore these subtler layers of that sound of the mantra, the mind begins to drift inward, away from all the distractions of what we assume to be our sense of what we are and who we are. That is to say, I'm merely a body with a history and a mind that's hitchhiked on it, and I change my opinion every few years about everything. And so my sense of who I am and what my value is to the world is this thing that's just, a moving feast. We start to experience that which is more and more true for longer and longer. That is to say, what is the ultimate truth? Truth means that doesn't change. What is that about you that is the non-changing absolute basis, the underlying truth of what you are? Not just who you are, what you are. You are indeed, in your ultimate state, a consciousness field that, unless you've practiced Vedic meditation, you've never experienced it. And so then, in Vedic meditation, in the last stroke of experiencing the fabulous charm of the mantra fades off, it evaporates, and the mind is left for a moment in a status where there is no mantra and no thought. Now, that is the individual mind unifying with its own underlying truth, its own underlying basis. And what is that? The unified field of consciousness. Having had that experience itself imprints itself very delicately on the inner sense of selfness. We're going to call that for a moment, forget about Western psychology interpretations of this. We're going to call that the ego. Ego doesn't mean, that guy's problem, he's got ego, or that person's problem, he's got ego. We don't really know what we're talking about when we use the phrase and bandy it about that way. Ego properly means that layer of our individual beingness that creates a sense of identity. And so ego here is going to mean that sense of self. And what got imprinted on it just now? I just now experienced, I'm also, besides all these other things, I'm also evidently an unbounded, unified field of consciousness, one indivisible, whole, infinite, dare I say it, non-changing, dare I say it then, therefore, immortal, consciousness field. And sitting on top of that, in addition to that, I had a broken leg when I was 9, and I did this when I was 10, and there was a good teacher and a bad teacher and all of that. But underneath all of that, there's this sense of selfness which, through regular twice daily practice of Vedic meditation, and typically we practice it for about 20 minutes, usually in the morning before the day's activity, and again late afternoon, early evening before we commence our evening's activity. We keep reinstating the direct experience. This is not you thinking about unboundedness. No, it's not a thought. This is not you contemplating the idea of unified field awareness. No, it's not that. There's no contemplation. There's no ideology. There's no thinking about beingness or anything like that. The mind steps beyond thought and stays conscious. Anybody can step beyond thought and go unconscious. You do it every night when you lie down on the bed, right? But this is stepping beyond thought and retaining full consciousness. And when you experience that repeatedly, what happens is that unbounded awareness starts to append itself to your inner sense of self, along with all of your individual status and structure and ideas and so on of who you are and what you are. Added to this is a direct experience, not a philosophy, a direct experience. I am also this unbounded field. And that unbounded field, as it awakens more and more within you, through regular practice of meditation, we're awakening that layer of self, which had been up till that time transcendental. Transcendental means beyond all of these relativities. Something transcendent is now starting to become something conscious. It's not transcendental anymore. It's starting to become conscious, part of your innermost sense of identity, of selfness. And so what's being added and infused into your moment-by-moment reckoning of who you are, what you are, and, dare I say it, what you're capable of, what your capability level is starting to go through change. If I'm starting to feel infinitely capable, if I'm starting to feel palpably more energetic, if I'm starting to notice very tangibly that my perceptual acuity has grown and grown and grown as a result of my daily practice of meditation, then I'm going to be less overawed by relativities of circumstances. You know yourself that sometimes you're with somebody who considers themselves to be less capable than you consider yourself to be. And no judgment, no negative judgment, it's just simply an assessment. And you might be in a particular set of surroundings where you intended to get a thing done, but things didn't seem to be going that way. And your acquaintance begins to melt into, oh no, oh that's it, let's give up, and all of that. But you can see a very easy path through. And from your perspective, it's not a problem. It's just something that needs to be negotiated and dealt with and interacted with. And so you can do that and have that successful degree of interaction, and somebody else who's in the same environment as you may find themselves utterly overawed by a relatively, what you would consider, a minor set of a few moments of adversity. Like that, we can see the difference in states of consciousness, and the way that it plays out is greater capability where consciousness is greater. Greater capability to interact with the need of the moment or the demands of circumstances around us. Interactive success. So as we continue practicing Vedic meditation every morning, every evening, every morning, every evening, repeatedly, as a strategy, as a daily program, then we gain the capacity to keep that inner layer of us awake and alive, and it infuses a sense of unboundedness into the everyday boundaries of daily living. This is how consciousness grows and grows and grows. As consciousness grows and grows, we know that it's grown because our inner self-report on how things are going, how a day went, and so on, is more and more, everything went beautifully. There's less and less of, oh, that was a problem, this was a problem, there's so many problems, and I have to deal with these things, and there are these setbacks, and there's worries and anxieties about what's going to happen tomorrow, and all of that. One is still in a world of constant change, but you find yourself being stable and adaptive in the face of the constant change in a way that makes you a more successful interactor with the constant change. And this is going to be the sign that consciousness has expanded. Consciousness has deepened. Consciousness, pure consciousness, your contact with your inner unified field of consciousness has grown and grown and grown. And this can grow to a point where you have that all-inclusive awareness that we call cosmic consciousness. The ability perpetually to be in contact with that deep inner field of being. Not that you have developed a cool philosophy. It's not that at all. You're having a direct experience that is utterly different to the direct experiences you had in the past. The philosophy can come out of the direct experience. The philosophy ends up being simply principles of life and living that are the underpinnings of your daily experience, but the cause of the philosophy, the cause of the more sustainable way of looking at life, is your direct experience of being beyond okay, being just fabulous inside all the time. We call it 24-hour bliss. By bliss, I don't mean ecstasy. I mean supreme depth of inner contentedness, along with a willingness to engage fully in meeting the demands of the world interactively. That's what the signs of expanding consciousness would look like. And the secret, which I don't want to be a secret, not a good thing. Knowledge. Knowledge is the opposite of secret. It's the antonym of secret. It needs to be knowledge that is held by an ever-increasing percentage of the world population, so that we can step out of this ever-repeating known of low capability, low capacity to see cause and effect and cascades of causes and effects, and to see ultimate causes instead of proximate causes, like that. This problematic world we've created for ourselves based on what? Not terribly intelligent thinking, to tell you the truth. But every human being has the capacity to harness that infinite creative intelligence from within and change that whole scenery. And this is the most urgent need of humanity. The greatest wasted resource is not water. The greatest wasted resource is not food. The greatest problem is not the release of carbon into the atmosphere. These are all big problems. But the greatest is that the 8 billion people of the earth, for the most part, have almost no idea of this unified field of consciousness that's within them, and which, if harnessing it, will bring about a greater, stable, adaptive, and more cohesive approach to meeting the need of the time, and to stop creating the problems which later on they're simply going to have to solve to avert the dangers which have not yet come. This is what we want. This is the world we have envisioned